Since I'm making a small game, I don't need to worry about documentation. I can just make stuff up as I go. Besides, I already have everything laid out in my mind. This will be easy. So, 2 weeks ago, I did release the demo to my game, Annie's Cross, which is available to the folks who are in my Discord. And let me tell you, I was not expecting the amount of bugs and problems that would be found in the game. So, how did this happen? How did bugs end up getting into my small game as someone who really tries to do things the right way? Hello, my name is Maria, and today I want to take you on a little journey to discuss how bugs got into my little indie game. So, you know how one of the things that people tell you that you should do before you even jump in and start making your game is to document the kind of features that you want, to flesh out anything that could potentially come up? Well, as you can tell from the introduction to this video, I kind of ignored all of that and just decided to jump straight in. I honestly thought that with it being a small game and the fact that a lot of people tend to not put a whole lot of emphasis on documentation, that I could probably get by with it. And well, because of that, stuff like this started happening. I honestly should have kept like a log of things that I had added lore to, and even wrote down what I had added or was going to add to each part. That way, as I was doing them, I could just check them off. It would prevent issues like this where someone might go interact with the couch and get the same dialogue as something else because, well, it was empty because I had forgot to put something there. Also, if I had documented early on in the process before I had just jumped in and started working on stuff, I would have realized that having a way to skip dialogue would improve the player experience and not be something that I end up adding literal days before I decide to release the demo. And in turn, that would have made it so I would have known to include the skippable dialogue or the skippable text in both my interactable objects as well as the puzzle objects that the player can interact with. Furthermore, it might have made it easier for me to track down why the player was able to move while the dialogue was running across interactable objects. Instead, I had to spend literal hours searching through different scripts to try to find the exact one that was causing this issue. Not to mention, the way that I ended up fixing it was basically turning on player movement to immediately turn it back off a few lines later, just so another script could turn it back on a few moments after that. Needless to say, the code was very spaghetti-like and a lot of things were going on that should not have been happening. Thus, I really had to stop and reconsider how I'm handling documentation. I mean, even just beyond game design document, I'm talking about the structure for the code. Having something where I can visualize what's going to be in each script and what each script is going to be responsible for, and then taking the time to make sure as I'm coding and even after I'm done coding for a set period of time to go back and make sure that I'm not doing something that script should not be responsible for. For example, why can every script turn on and turn off my player movement? That's not something that, let's say, a puzzle dialogue script should have access to, but it is, and it's causing me lots of problems. I can only imagine if this game had like 60 scripts, how hard it would be to find the exact one that's causing the one specific problem at a given time. And this all comes back to two different things. One being the fact that I was really ignorant. I was really ignorant about being more confident in my abilities because I started feeling pretty good about coding and being able to code, that it was easy to look over needing any kind of structure despite this being a small game. Furthermore, it's a lot easier in the moment to be like, well, I can just fix this by making something public or calling another function through a script that this script has access to. And while I don't think inherently there's anything wrong with doing that in the moment, it's when you don't go back and fix it later and really ask, should this script really have access to these other components, that you start to realize where the issues come in. Second of all, I think lack of experience and knowledge really plays a key role into not fully understanding the depth that it takes to create an experience that's interactive and has a lot of moving parts at the same time. For example, before this past week, if you would have said, hey, there's a lot more to playing audio than just having an audio manager and having a script play specific music through that audio manager, I would have thought you were joking. But here, when I'm changing the volume for my game through the options menu, it's stopping the music, and that means I have to replay it. And if I have to do that every single type of music, how am I going to handle that in an easy and convenient way that's not going to mess up something else that's happening in the game? And so I think when you're first starting out and you don't have a whole lot of experience, it's really hard to see all of these little issues that could come up, and until you've experienced them and they've caused you enough pain that you stop and realize that there's a bit more to this than I first thought was possible. And it's amazing how easy things can get out of control and how much polish a game actually takes in order for it to come across as something that is complete and a full project in and of itself. I mean, I can see why a lot of people say the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your time is going to be spent on the last 20% of your project, because honestly, getting things up and running is the easy part. It's trying to make sure that the UI updates with the correct button prompt. It's making sure that, the enemy doesn't spawn on top of the player 3 times in a row, which causes them to immediately die. It's those types of issues that really don't get fixed until the last big push of the game, which feels like it takes forever. And so that's why I also realize why so many other indie game developers really push you to try and make your first project. Because honestly, that's the only way you're going to be able to reinforce the knowledge that you already know, as well as push yourself to grow both as a person and as a developer in order to fully realize the scope of what it is you're trying to make. So therefore, if you are an indie developer yourself and you haven't created a project on your own yet, I highly recommend that you go ahead and take the time to work on a small project that will contain some of the features that you want to make in a much larger game down the road, as it will help you understand what it's going to take. And as for Annie's Cross itself, well, I'm already way over my original timeline that I had set aside for this game, and so over the next few weeks, I'm going to go ahead and finish it up and make one final devlog before moving on to a brand new project, which I plan to do in Godot. Anyway, with all that being said, if you got any value of coming along on this journey with me, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like. But until next time, stay awesome, keep creating, and remember to spark the imagination. Until next time, take care, friends.